perspectives roar like Godzilla. This is what the PW Hustle is. It's the Ballers, baby. The perspective is balling, baby. You know what time it is when it's Billy Ray, A-Track Brown, and the Professor up on YouTube. That's what the PW Hustle is. We make an impact here. And welcome back, Hustleites. Welcome back to a special edition of the Professor's Perspective here on PW Hustle Channel 2 on YouTube. I am the effervescent. I am the magnanimous. I am the scholarly. But most importantly, I am the glorious one, the Professor Chabela Cruz. And you know what? This is No Mercy Sunday. This is the time where we, everybody's trying to get their predictions in. And if you haven't heard the Professor's predictions, go to OneWrestling.com, see myself and Billy Ray Valentine give the worst predictions on Wrestling YouTube right now, going today, the worst review and preview of No Mercy for the WWE. But, shameless plugs and all. But for this perspective, I want to talk about the racial overtones that is going on in social media. We're getting to this powder keg in real life. And now wrestling has to take a hit on that too. Wrestling has to succumb to what's going on in the NBA. Wrestling has to again succumb to what's going on with the NFL and the national anthem. Wrestling has to succumb to, the battle back and forth between politically correct and just enjoying the shows. The WWE, for all intents and purposes, whether you like Jinder Mahal or not, whether you like his title reign or not, is being subjected to, ridicule that does not even belong to it. It was in an agenda by a Washington Post reporter trying to, extend their agenda and using WWE as their platform to talk about racial inequalities. But the problem with using WWE is it really doesn't exist with this segment. And I'll get to that in a second, Hustleites. I know you're going to try to say you are totally wrong, Professor. There's been always racism in professional wrestling. Yes, I am never going to deny that. But for the platform that is going on in 2017, you will understand where the Professor's coming from. Let me be clear about this. No way, shape, or form will I ever deny that there's never been any racism in professional wrestling. It's been there. It's been documented. It's been actually on TV. I could use some examples right now off the top of the Professor's dome. Greg the Hammer Valentine has some of the most scathing promos to both Tito Santana and Junkyard Dog. Go on YouTube and find those quote-unquote racist promos. Anybody in the Mid-South, in Tennessee, in Texas, anybody who is doing a program with Junkyard Dog, even though is a great example of the racial equality and the racial advancement of people of color, thanks to someone like Bill Watts promoting in the Southern Territories, making JYD one of his main top draws for money. Let's not forget that. But some of the promos by white wrestlers, were very derogatory towards Junkyard Dog, calling him boy. And I don't need to remind Hustleites right now, when you use the term boy to a person of color, the history of that tone it is. It's very derogatory, it's very negative, and a lot of people of color went after that ass. Let's not forget, God rest his soul, Roddy Piper, in WrestleMania 6 on pay-per-view, mind you, in 1990, went blackface and black skin on one side against Bad News Brown. Now, if that happened in 2017, Twitter would be going crazy, not only against WWE, but against Roddy Piper, calling him racist and all that stuff. But what Roddy Piper was trying to do was trying to do a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing, a good side and a bad side. But lo and behold, when you put blackface, again, you can use that racial overtones, or you can use that what is called race baiting. And you know what? In the annals of the Monday Night Wars, in the peak of wrestling, when everybody was watching on Monday Night Raw and Monday Night Nitro, 4 white dudes bronzed themselves, and X-Pac himself went blackface when DX mocked the Nation of Domination. So I'm giving you these little tidbits of that there is that racist overtones that has been played out on TV. And of course, behind the scenes, if you're not listening to podcasts like Stevie Ray and Title Match Wrestling, he will tell you the going on, the ins and outs of what he and his brother Booker T went through during their times in the Global Wrestling Federation, in WCW, and just literally in the wrestling business itself. So it's there, it's documented right now. But for what the Washington Post reporter was doing, was fanning the flames of something that really didn't need to be fanned. Because this is a great example of trying to enhance something to feed the person's agenda. Now, I won't go into the old schools of the 80s and maybe Roddy Piper, but we can at least be confident enough to say if you are the true marks of the business that people say they are, Hustleites, if you say you're a mark for this business, then you will know where I'm going to come from when I'm going to use 1998's Nation of Domination mockery and use Jinder Mahal's Rook at Me against Shinsuke Nakamura. So with that being said, let's look at it this way. Mark Henry, The Godfather, and Ron Simmons recently did a table for 3 on the WWE Network. They actually talked about this segment. They actually were asked by their fans, their constituents, people of color, why didn't they get mad at the situation? And basically, they know how to separate real life and I guess you could say the fantasy and the movie aspect of what the WWE is. If you're a mark for the business, this is a movie. This is a movie you're seeing on TV being played out. So again, it's not about defending the racist overtones here. It's actually just separating the fact of what you're seeing. Because if you're going to do it like that, then Hollywood needs to be picketed every movie. Django Unchained. How many times Leo DiCaprio and Samuel L. Jackson did a lot of racial overtones there? Let's picket that movie. But a lot of people watch that movie. Hollywood has done a lot of things like that. But you're willing, as an intelligent person, to kind of separate the realities that are going on and try to escape yourself with the fantasies of what you see in a movie theater. So this is, again, the same thing. You implement a little bit of the reality base, but you know that you're watching like a movie with the WWE. And it even says it, Hustleites. Even says it in their opening credits that this is sports entertainment. It's almost the WWE's loophole that you're actually watching a movie. So if you're going to get triggered, and I like this word, triggered by certain things that are going on, then, you can't even watch TV anymore. It's really sad. And for this Washington Post reporter going on YouTube after, a day after SmackDown aired, wrestling fans before defending wrestling itself, will just say that this promo by Jinder Mahal, you got a very negative review about it because you don't even like Jinder Mahal as a champion, per se. But again, if you go by the business, if you're the marks that you are, you knew what Jinder Mahal was trying to do as a heel champion. He was trying to draw heat with the crowd. He was trying to, get the fans to hate him a lot. And the payoff will happen when your hero, your babyface, your knight in shining armor, Shinsuke Nakamura, the rock star, will get his revenge against Jinder Mahal. Will it be for the will it be a championship reign out of Shinsuke Nakamura? Time will tell. But somewhere, somehow, in some way, it's not a question of if. It's just a question of when our hero, Shinsuke Nakamura, will get his revenge. And again, going back to the Nation of Domination, back in 1998, if you know the politics, you knew that these 4 white guys had to have a heavy conversation with the likes of Mark Henry, the likes of Rock, the likes of Ron Simmons, the likes of The Godfather, saying, you know what, I don't feel comfortable doing this, but you know what, we're just going to do this for TV. I have no, I have no hatred towards, I hate doing this, but you have to know where I'm coming from, where my heart is, what am I as a person? And the dialogues between them two should make you, more understandable to the situation. Because I'm sure that Jinder Mahal, even though he says it himself, that he has, creative license to control his own promos, is not stupid enough in this day and age, in this climate of divisiveness, in this climate of race baiting, not to go backstage and not to talk to Shinsuke Nakamura and say, I don't feel right doing this, but, I'm trying to, implement certain things from back in the days. Kind of like using those bad stereotypes. I want to get the cheap heat on myself. I'm not comfortable. I don't mean, as a person, this is not in my heart. This is not in my character. And the dialogue between Shinsuke Nakamura and Jinder Mahal should be just enough for you wrestling fans to not go and troll and say, well, racism is not as entertaining as it is. Again, I understand the climate is so different in this day and age. But you gotta, at least for the wrestling part of it, if you're the marks that you say you are, you should understand the backstage things that goes on and, between the two. And you should say, you know what, they'll do it. They can accept it. At least I can watch it. I'm not going to say I'm going to enjoy it, but at least I can watch it and know where they're coming from. And you know what's going to happen in the future where your hero gets the revenge. Just like when people disrespected Junkyard Dog with those promos, those boy promos. Junkyard Dog, as the hero, as the babyface, got his revenge. Anybody making kind of comments to Pedro Morales, to Tito Santana on TV, they got their revenge. It's well documented. So don't say one thing about, saying about racism and not forgetting what happened after the facts. That's why the Professor's Perspective is here on PW Hustle Channel 2. That's why I have to remind you guys that sometimes, as emotional as we get as a society, we have to step back a little bit. Now, for the Washington Post, reporter, she did her job. She extended her agenda. She's trying to fan the flames again. But again, I will say to that reporter, some of the wrestling fans that interacted with you were very ignorant. Were very disrespectful, very blunt when they said what they said. I don't need to document that. You can go on the things, because she even tweeted it herself how, a few bad apples represents the whole bunch of the wrestling community. But sometimes she should have came at the professor and we could have had this delicate conversation. That's what it is. It's called dialogue. You got to have a dialogue between two people to see where they're coming from. But we don't dialogue anymore. We just debate. And all we do is just bring about the facts that we have. And we just try to get our agenda over. And if we have enough heat, if we know if our promo skills are good, we feel like we won our debate because we shut them down. And all it is just, there's truths on every side. It's just which one is loud enough and which one has more impact enough to to get you to convince yourself who won or who lost a debate. But again, we need more dialogue. And that's not what we're having here, especially with this wrestling situation. We're not having dialogue with fans and the president and sports stars when it comes to the national anthem. We need dialogue. We need more dialogue and less debating. And I'm not saying debating about trying to get your agenda across, but less debating in the sense of trying to win something. Because everybody's right in a certain way. It's just how you express yourself respectfully and try to get your point across respectfully. If you don't do that, no one's going to hear anybody. I'm not going to hear you. You're not going to hear me. And sometimes, you know, in the thrills of debates, it's great to have a differing opinion. But in this climate of the divides, the race baiting, you know, it's a powder keg. It is ready to explode. But I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on this because there's really no need for that on the wrestling side. Again, stick to the NFL, stick to the NBA, stick to the MLB, because those people representing that agenda for people to do something, you know, the WWE themselves does a lot for their communities, does a lot for charities. But, again, in a scripted storyline, it's hard to say if they're going to take an action. You know, it's really kind of like a moot point. When someone takes action in the in Major League Baseball, that's newsworthy. When someone takes action in the National Football League, that's newsworthy. For hearing a promo from Jinder Mahal, whether you like him or not, is not newsworthy. And again, for me, I thought it was funny. It's 2 weeks worth of him getting cheap heat for himself. 1 week he calls Shinsuke Nakamura the king of constipation and shows a picture of Shinsuke Nakamura like this. And then the next week he's, you know, saying, "Look at me," and using all those stupid stereotypes. But you know the payoff is coming for Shinsuke Nakamura. We're supposed to be marks. And that's the thing. And sometimes wrestling fans need to remember that. So before I go, I just like to, you know, let's get back into happier times. And let's congratulate Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, on signing an exclusive domestic contract for Ring of Honor. So that means maybe no PWG for him, no AAW for him, no Northeast Championship Wrestling for him, no Combat Zone Wrestling for him, none of these indie no Wrestle Pro appearances. He's going to stick to one place in America. And the good thing about that, being exclusive with Ring of Honor, you know he's going to have more matches over in Japan with New Japan Pro Wrestling because of that partnership. So it's great for Cody Rhodes, and it's great for what he has done. This man has just shown a great example. He's Alberto Del Rio 2.0, because everybody was talking about Alberto Del Rio before he went crazy and all the other stuff the second time around. But I'm talking about the first time around when Alberto was doing this, going worldwide, winning championships and going back to the wrestling part. Cody Rhodes has been doing that, himself. Being on, Final Battle, being on Wrestle Kingdom, being on the big paper, being on Impact, Bound for Glory. So he's had a hell of a year out of the WWE doing all these big events. So congratulations to Cody Rhodes. But I want to say one thing, which is very funny. A lot of people were like, saying that Cody Rhodes was going to die or something, because he was going to have this match with Minoru Suzuki. And I laughed at that because I laid in the weeds. I didn't have to say nothing, but I'm gonna let it be known, because if you know the professor, if you know the history of the PW Hustle, if you know the history of perspective, that I'm not lying when I'm thinking about this. I was confident that this was an anticlimactic match between Cody Rhodes and Minoru Suzuki. The only reason that I was so confident with that, it was because Cody Rhodes was owed a victory against somebody from New Japan. He did what was right for business in losing cleanly to Okada Reigns at that G1 special. So it was not like Minoru Suzuki was going to come in, beat the holy hell out of Cody Rhodes, make the Ring of Honor champion look bad, make the company look bad, and him squirmish a victory. He didn't squirmish. He did, little heel tactics here and there. Minoru got some shots in here and there. But you know what? Cody Rhodes had to win. You had to honor, not only you had to honor Ring of Honor. You had to honor him being the champion, him being the best representation for that company. He was owed that. So this was so anticlimactic that I laughed at it, that anybody was like, you know, you have to dispel your fantasy bookings. You have to dispel your dream matches and know the realities. Just like the realities of the G1 special when Cody Rhodes challenged Okada Reigns for the title, you knew that Cody Rhodes was not going to win. You was hoping, you was wishing, you was like praying for something special, something different out the box. And it would have been great newsworthy stuff if Cody Rhodes was a dual champion, but they didn't want to do that. You got to protect your golden boy. You got to protect your golden goose in Okada Reigns. So it's the same thing. Suzuki came in to enhance the Ring of Honor Championship, to enhance Cody Rhodes' stature as the man. He beats the never open weight champion. But I'm going to leave this out here for you hustleites. I'm still very confident when I say this, that within the next maybe 2 to 3 years tops, somebody from New Japan Pro Wrestling will be the Ring of Honor Heavyweight Champion. I felt this way when Jay Lethal was a champion. I said maybe Tanahashi will beat him. And I still feel confident to this day right now that somebody from New Japan is going to come and beat the reigning Ring of Honor champion. Whether it's Cody Rhodes or not, that time will be told. That story will be told another time. But I'm still confident in thinking like that. You know who the perfect person would be to maybe beat Cody Rhodes if this person was healthy enough? Shibata. Shibata, maybe he's not ready for the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship on the New Japan side. Maybe he's not ready to be in the main event scene as the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, because that's the most prestigious title, right, A-Track? But he can come, invade America, and if he was healthy enough, and if he was cleared by the doctors, I could see someone like Shibata beating Cody Rhodes and becoming the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. So what do you think, hustleites? What do you think about my little premonition here? Will it come true or will it not? Leave your comments on the bottom. But, most importantly, like the page and subscribe to the page, because we appreciate all the love and support here on PW Hustle Channel 2 and, of course, PW Hustle Channel 1, where we have the, video podcast of the PW Hustle. I know you're waiting for it, but it's coming. It's coming very, very, very soon. So before I leave, follow me on the Twitter at PROFPW Hustle, a.k.a. Professor PW Hustle. Follow A-Track Brown, the dirtiest of the city, at Pharaoh Fancy. And follow the man, Billy Ray Valentine, Mr. Conspiracy, Mr. Infinite Fringe himself, at Obi-Wan You Know Me. I'm the effervescent, the glorious Professor Chabela Cruz saying so long and peace, and enjoy No Mercy tonight.